Hi, my name's Vince from My Mate Vince, and in this video today we're going to try to fix up this SEGA Mega Drive with a bit of a strange fault. So this is known as a SEGA Genesis elsewhere, and if you have a look you can see Mickey's working up here, he can jump. I've got apples, I've collected apples, I'll collect some more in a minute. I can't use them. When I press these A and B buttons they're not doing anything, and it's not the controller. I've tried this on another Mega Drive and it's working absolutely fine. So for some reason A and B is not working, and it isn't a controller issue. I've had a look at the pins on the actual Mega Drive and they also seem to be okay. Let me just find an apple. Here we go. So there's apples up here. So you can see now that I've got apples there, but yet I can't fire them. So A and B is not working. So let's take it apart and find out why that's happening when we know 100% the controller's working, because I've tried it on another Mega Drive. And just to be clear, this game is also working. So basically when I put this and this on the other Mega Drive, it's working fine. So this is what I'm thinking. Well, first of all, we're going to have a good close look here. You can see that they look okay. It'd be different if they were all corroded and stuff, but they look okay. I think, let's take it apart. There might be something visually obvious. If not, I'm wondering if I was to liven it up, plug this in, as long as I could get contact to the pins, every time I hit the A button, or what I could maybe do is maybe I could go across the pins and with a scope and see what happens when I hit the C button, and then maybe when I press A and B, nothing will happen. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it all comes, I mean, there's loads of different pins, so I don't know which ones it's going to be on, but I'm wondering if it was working here, maybe I could go along the circuit, follow it along, and it might be like, oh, it's going to an inductor, and I'm getting a signal that side of the inductor, but not that side, and that might suggest that the inductor's faulty. So yeah, hopefully this will be an interesting one. I bought this off eBay a long time ago. I think I paid £10 for it. This and another one I bought two for £20. Actually, I remember this from a Mega Drive ages ago. That these, you can't just unclip them. I don't know if you can do it by straightening the legs or not. Yes, I think I can, but I better take a picture, because otherwise I'm not going to know which way to put that back on. There we go. Now, so the ports are down here, so I'm going to have to take this shield off. Right, we are in. We're in. EMI 6, EMI 12, 13, 4, 5. So I don't know what they are. Maybe they are some sort of weird inductory type things. So is that going to be the problem? Is one or two of these going to be gone? I think we need to take the board out because I need to see the pins on the other side. I presume they're going to go to here. I mean, how many pins do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Do we have 9 of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No. Well, there doesn't look to be any corrosion. It all looks clean. Now, that there's been fixed up. Do you know what this went through my head thinking, is this the one I worked on years ago? Because I had a problem on one of these, well, it wasn't a problem. I thought it wasn't working, but it was. It's just that these work in the thousands of ohms. But can you see it's all been melted around here? So this lid's definitely been taken off. And it must have been cleaned underneath, and then it's been soldered up. So work has been done to this. Just want to see what that is there. That's just dirt. So let's see if that's working. The soldering might need a little bit of work there. So this is going to be something like 5,000 ohms when it's not in use, and then 500 ohms or something when it is. So that's 5,000, no, that's 5 mega ohms there. Is that a direct short there? Yes. So working on diagonals, which is there. So now let's see if that changes. Yes, it does. To 800 ohms. So it's working. Right, okay, that's working. Let's take the board out. Oh, a leg's been lifted here. And a resistor's been put in place. What's that about? Obviously that's some sort of mod or hack or something. Yeah, so stuff's definitely gone on here. We've got 2 voltage regulators. Okay. The caps look original though. Right, let's have a look behind here. I'm just wondering, is there anything else going on anywhere? A little bit of corrosion there. Where does that coincide with? Back here, so that's not doing anything. So we are this one here. Let's zoom in and see if we can see. Right, so it looks like the pins go to here, I presume, and then they go to this side of, I'm going to call them in a filter, let's call them a filter. And then it looks like the middle's going to be all in contact, probably a ground, and then they go to this side. And this side mostly, it goes to all these holes, yeah, the wires. And if we flip this over, the wires are going to be all around this area here, and they all go up into this chip. Yeah, and even the ones that go along here, can you see they go along and they go into here, which I presume is going to be the main like CPU. So unless we've got a problem here, or I did see little resistors. So should we measure these resistors and see what they are? Because it says 331, so that's going to be 330 ohm. Maybe one of the resistors has failed. No, that's correct, 330. 0.33K, so that's 330 ohms. No, that's fine. Just checking these here just to see. So it's not the resistors. Right, okay, I am now going to go on the pins here, just on continuity, and see if they are actually coming up here. There. Here. Here. And I'm not pressing particularly hard. So if one was a bit corroded, it should show up. That's all alright. Right, well, let's check now. So the middles are all going to be, I presume, grounds. So let's see if they're getting from here to here. Yes, 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 yes. That's worrying. Right, shall we check these big diodes? So on diode test. So we have a short that way. That doesn't seem right. Let's see what we got here. Oh, we got a short there as well. Right, let's go the other way. Do you know what that is? We're measuring, I think. I think we're measuring across these inductors. But that's testing the same as this. But that could have failed. I don't know. Because it's not in... Oh no, hold on. It says FB. That's a ferrite bead, isn't it? So it's not a diode. So it is going to test short. It says FB here. So that's a ferrite bead. I thought it was a diode. It looked like a diode. Well, that's worrying. So basically then, if we keep it on continuity, it should be going from here all the way up into here. So let's just go on here. Let's just see which ones are ground to begin with. Right, so that one there is a ground. I know you can't see what I'm doing. There. So let's go across to the others now and see if they're working their way up to here. Yeah. Oh, exciting. Oh, I was going to say that's not getting there, but it is. That's not though. Excellent. Right, that one's not getting there. 1, 2, 3, 4. That one. Let's go across the others. That wasn't the ground, was it? No. It's there. Unless, of course, they're not all used. Right, that's not getting there either. That's there. Right, I am just going to have a quick look on these ones here. So these go up. So they kind of go up the same area. I just want to see if these are coming up, and I want to see if that fourth one is or isn't. So let's jump straight to the fourth one. So 4's not getting there either on this side, so I don't think that's it. Let's concentrate on 4 a minute though. Let's see where 4 goes to. This one here, which goes, oh, it goes through the resistor. So it is going to be getting there. See, this is where you've got to be so careful. It's just, it is going to be getting there. And I bet the other one that I couldn't find, which I think was this one here, is that going to this resistor? Yeah. So it is going to be getting there. It's just the other side of the resistor. So if I was to go on to this side of the resistor, because my meter will only beep up to 50 ohms. There. So they are getting there. Let me just try this resistor one here. Yeah. Well, there's not a continuity problem going through. What on earth could this be? I'm just going to have a close look. I want to see if that capacitor's in line with anything in case it's a cap problem. You know, looking at that modification type thing there, it looks factory to me. The solder looks perfect here, and also when you look underneath, it looks like all the others. So I don't think that was done by, I think that was done in the factory. But I could be wrong. Right, I can't see anything wrong with it whatsoever. So I think we're going to have to plug the game in. I think we're going to have to try to do that scope thing and see if we can work out what's going on. 1993. Right, now I've got my multimeter here. Hopefully you can see that there. I haven't got the scope out yet. Might not necessarily need to get the scope out. So I've got it turned on. I can't, it's not connected to any display. But if you have a look here, so the power's coming from the chip. You know, there's no battery or anything in the controller here. So the power's coming from this way. But even if I go onto the pins just before we go into this controller here, can you see on near enough all of them, we've got 5 volts. So 5 volts here, 5 volts. I know one of them is going to be ground. 5 volts. I'm just using this as my ground. 5 volts. So 100% we have 5 volts going into the controller. I'll presume that's ground. Into the controller. Yeah, and so that means, you know, we are getting 5 volts through these resistors here. So let's start pressing buttons and see what happens. So if I go onto that one there, 5 volts, I don't know whether it's going to bring it down to ground or what happens. So, oh, there we go. So look at that, C brings it down to ground there, button C. So maybe that's the button for C, or maybe they share buttons, I don't know, and then it works via resistances. Like a keyboard. Okay, so that seems to be button C. So let's go on to this one. So that appears to be doing nothing. Okay. That doesn't appear to be doing... Oh, here we go, here we go. There we go. This is amazing. So that's right. That one there is the right D-pad. So this is showing that the buttons are working. So once we find the one for A and B, we should be able to go right the way in. Oh, so that's ground. We should be able to go right the way into the chip. There we go. So that's the left. Here we go. That's down. We haven't come across A and B yet. Or start. There we go. That's B. So we've got B here. Right. And now last one is here. So we haven't got A anywhere. And that's up. So A and B being shared. Let's go back to this one. So this is B. Let's see, is that A as well? So why is A not here? But B should also fire apples.
A little while later.
Right, it's a little while later now, and I've been on the internet and I was typing in the problem. Now, this is the pinout, and I have found something, and I would have never have found this unless really I could see the pinout. So remember I was saying there was a problem with A and B. What was confusing me was, why would both of them fail? It's because they're actually on the same one, and that's why I couldn't find them. Look here, B and A are the same. And remember, I couldn't find start either, but I could find C. Start and C are the same. Basically, it just depends if they're high or low. Now, this bit I don't really understand. I understand if they're high, they're going to be plus 5 volts, and if they're low, they're going to be negative. But when no buttons are pressed, they're all low. So how does it know that you're pressing A if everything's low anyway? What's the difference between A being pressed and A not being pressed if they're both low, if they're both at 0? So that's a bit confusing. But I believe what happens is the computer itself, so basically this here, will poll the controller once every refresh. So if this is like, 50 hertz or 60 hertz, depending on where you're from, it's going to be polling the controller that many times, so 50 times a second or 60 times a second. And I think when the select on this is low, and then you press A, which is low, it knows that A's been pressed. But that's the bit I don't quite understand. But the bottom line is that we don't have to worry about anything. Everything works on here. The D-pad works, the start works, C works. The only thing that doesn't work is A and B. And A and B is pin 9 here. But this isn't actually pin 9 on here because it's this is like male, or it's a female socket and the male goes into it. But you can see here, the pins are here. This is going to be plugged into this like that. So that's how it's going to be. So you see pin 9 there is actually this bottom one here. And that is the one that we were working on when it came to doing B. But I couldn't find A because it's the same one. So we only need to worry about this one here. Now we know on this one that it goes to here. So we know there's continuity everywhere. We know that that goes to here, yeah? So it's this one here. And yes, it does go, but look when you look really, really closely. It's so good that this information's online because it just helps you out massively. So yes, I knew there was flux and stuff here, but have a look at this here. And does one pin, apart from the flux, look different than all the others? I think it's quite obvious now. This here is the pin, which is A and B. So this corresponds to this one here. This one. And look what you can see. We have a cold solder joint. So look at these. They all look like nice little kind of volcanoes going up to it. Volcano, 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 volcano. Volcano, little bit cracked here. Volcano, that's a lovely one. Look at that one. Look at that one. It's cracked there. That there is a cold solder joint. And although I'm getting continuity, maybe it's not the best. Yeah, so maybe this pin here is ever so slightly loose. Let's just see. It's kind of hard to tell really, but look, if you look at that one, you can see that that's solid. Well, that's not. So therein lies our problem, and I didn't even spot that because I was looking for continuity, and we got continuity, but that has to be the problem there. So even by me, if I just did this, it would probably start working. If I just bent that in there now, it would probably start working. But you can see there, that's cracked all the way around. So let's get some flux on that and get that sorted. But if I didn't have that little diagram, and that little diagram was on Reddit, And they got it from oldcomputers.com. So isn't that fantastic that somebody's already gone to the bother of doing all that? That's what's great about when you're working with old things and popular old things, that there's a load of people out there that have done a load of work on them, which is great. I'm going to reflow all of these because if that one's dodgy, it might not be long before others, because we know another one looks slightly cracked. So fantastic, I'm happy now. I'm happy that I found something which is faulty, so I'm almost certain this is going to now work. So let's reflow what's here. There you go, look at that. You can see now it turns, you know, the hole's just completely, solder's just sunk into it. So maybe there wasn't quite enough solder put on that at the factory. Has that gone up nicely or not? Yeah, look at that there now. Let's do all the others. This was the other dodgy one, this one here. Actually, before I clean that up, let me just put a little bit of solder in this switch here because I didn't like the look of it. I'm not going to add flux because I don't want it to go anywhere into the switch at all. So I suppose the moral of the story there is don't just rely on continuity, because we had continuity. But maybe if I was to wiggle the controller, or maybe when it's back in the case and you put in the controller with a bit of force, then it might break that solder joint again. So possibly when I was doing my testing, it was just barely working. And then if I had plugged the controller in and out a couple of times, it might have failed. Right, so there we have them. You can see now that yes, they might look a bit blobby, but there's no cold solder joints on them now. I think that's going to work now. So I'm going to put it all back together now. I might as well do that off camera, and I'll start filming again as I'm about to turn on, and then we can see if Mickey is now throwing those apples like he should. Right, here we go. I've had to move location because it's midnight here, so I don't want to make any noise. Let's see if you are now going to fry the apples. I used to have this game, but it was on the Master System. I would have never bought it, but my friend Richard at secondary school, I swapped it for Action Fighter or something, you know, used to loan games to each other, and I really liked it, and I completed it. I really, really like this game. It's something I never would have bought, but I just like the, I think I said this before on a video, I like the, not physics, I like the animation of it, you know, the way he runs and stuff. I like that. I like the way he jumps. It feels nice. That's called the physics of the game, isn't it? Right, so D-pad's working. That's working. So now, apples, are you working? Let's see. Yes, you are. Result. Well, there we go. Let's just get a few more. Should be more up here. Okay, so let's just shoot this fella here. There we go. And A, yeah. So A and B's working. Out of apples again. Well, there we have it. You know what? Now that, oh, let me just see if reset works. Yes, it does. Thinking about it now, a cold solder joint is going to be the most obvious thing because it takes a lot of force to put that in and out. So I think it would be it would be quite likely that there's quite a bit of strain there. I know they're glued and stuff, but there's still going to be a bit of pressure on the pins, and maybe over time they just wiggle a bit and then break. So there's just one more thing left to do, and that's to take off this here. One working Mega Drive. Thanks for watching, everyone.